Chad Edelbrick here. I got two things I want to talk to you about in this video. The first is my Nissan Leaf, and the second is my next electric car.
Some truth to that, and I think that maybe there was a lack of wisdom on the part of the people that were in charge. Not a chip on your shoulder. This is being combative, and this is how he rolls.
My Nissan Leaf, which I've made plenty of other videos about. If you want to check those out, you can go back and check out some of the playlists below. But my Nissan Leaf recently turned over 30,000 miles. If you remember from my previous videos, especially the one that I'll link here now, when I first got my Leaf, early on, I lost a battery bar very early. I bought it down one bar, and then almost immediately it lost another bar. Seemed like it was way too early to have lost another bar. Honestly, it was pretty disappointing at the time. Kind of weighed on me for a long time, but since then, I've gotten used to it. I don't feel as bad about it anymore. Fast forward now, over a year later, and I feel like I'm probably due to lose another one at this point, but still down 2 bars, still having the exact same experience driving the car. But overall, now going on almost a year and a half of owning the car, a couple things to point out. It is by far my favorite car that I've ever owned, and it's one of my favorite cars that I've ever driven. And I say that with some caveats. I have driven a few pretty cool cars. I got to be a valet for a night at a country club that was very fancy. And so as a young kid, I think I was 22, 23 at the time, I've never really been into cars that much, but in that moment, that felt really, really cool. So I got to drive a lot of cool cars. It's the best car I've ever driven for a number of reasons. It's super zippy. It's super zippy. It's really quick. It feels very fast. That said, I don't drive it super fast. I only drive it around town and neighborhoods and back and forth to the office. But overall, it feels like a great car. I love the build quality. I love everything about it. Mine does have some issues, which maybe we'll talk about in a future video, I'm not sure. But I've been dealing with a couple things. Nothing that's life or death with the car. Just a few things I've noticed, and a couple things that need to get fixed in the meantime. I did just have to change the windshield wipers. That was no big deal. I got nicer windshield wipers. I've never really been a big, premium windshield wiper guy. But for this car, I went ahead and put nicer ones than I would have any other car in. And that made a big difference for me. It was a really nice change, especially because the other ones were so old and ratty. The rear windshield wiper was falling apart. So just really easy stuff like that. I never ended up getting it tinted, which I said I would. The main reason being that the tint shop that's by my house closed. And I had always planned to do it there. Once they closed, it was just sort of out of mind, out of sight kind of thing. And I never got it done. Beyond that, it's just been my normal everyday car. My kid really likes riding in it. It's great for going back and forth around town to things. I don't have any real issues with range anxiety anymore. For most of the winter, I did charge it to 100% every single day. I had it timed so that it would hit 100% right before I got in it. Never had any issues. It always got me where I was going. I always knew just about how far I could drive it every day without any problem. And, just overall, it never gave me any issues. I've just switched back in the past week, 2 weeks maybe, to charging to 80%. It's hotter here. We're starting to get a little bit of that early Texas summer. Temperatures in the 90s basically every day at this point. And I went ahead and started charging it back to 80. Honestly, I might switch back to 100. It's not making much of a difference for me in the Leaf. No issues. I'm still able to get basically everywhere I need to go every day on that. I'm getting at 30,000, almost 31,000 miles in the car, down 2 bars. I'm getting right around 60-ish miles at 80% charge. So pretty good. It does vary greatly depending on the weather and the conditions, especially in the cold, which I've talked about in previous videos. But it's especially interesting in the cold. Look, my overall review of the Leaf at this point, after, I've put about 12,000, 10,000 miles on it. I actually don't remember how many miles it had when I bought on it, now that I'm thinking about it. I put about 10,000 miles on it. If you're thinking about buying a Nissan Leaf, if you are wondering if you should take the jump and buy an electric car, man, I would say that buying a Nissan Leaf is going to be one of the best car buying decisions you could make. And they're everywhere. You can find them in so many places now. We've noticed now in our neighborhood that a couple people have bought them. I like to think they saw mine and looked it up and thought it was interesting. But there's a few more in our neighborhood, so we're seeing them more and more. It's a great car. If you're just driving around town, if you're just moving around, look, it's gonna save you money on gas. My insurance rate is really good on that car. It's a fun car to drive. You're gonna get a little bit of that fun factor that you might miss out if you buy just a normal ICE car that is, just for getting around town. You're gonna get more punch. You're gonna get more excitement. Even if it's not nearly as fast as, what other cars are, you're still going to get that amazing, amazing experience. So for me, at 30,000 miles, almost 31,000 now, the Nissan Leaf has been an amazing car. Like I said, I've had it for about a year and a half, and I love it. I love it to death. It is my favorite car that I have ever owned. But I mentioned in the beginning that I want to talk about what my next car is going to be. That is because I think that I'm ready to upgrade, and I think that it's time I want to buy a Tesla. So I'm putting this out there to those of you who've watched from the beginning. I know there's a few of you who are Tesla owners. Here's what we've been going round and round about. So I've got a couple things that I'm interested in, and a few things that I've looked at. First off, I went and did the Tesla test drive experience. That experience was amazing. Really enjoyed driving the car. Obviously didn't get any video of driving the car. Test drove a Model X. Got to do some pretty cool things. Actually got to drive two of them. The first one that I test drove, the autopilot wasn't working. We reset the car while driving. We stopped and reset the car, and still wouldn't allow for autopilot. When we got back from the test drive, there was a P100D. So we took that out really quick and got to play with autopilot, which was amazing, an absolutely amazing experience. Got to experience autopilot on city streets as well as going pretty quick. And then also in both the first one that I test drove was just 100, and then the second one was a P100D. It was really cool to get to feel the acceleration of both. Both of them we got to do 0 to 60, which was a lot of fun. Haven't for my previous rides in Model X's, I have never been able to experience that. So that was amazing. My wife and I have talked a lot about buying Teslas, and I think really it would be nice, and we've talked a little bit about doing it, to be a 2 Tesla home, to be a completely electric car home. I feel like Tesla's the way to go with that. So we've looked at a few options. I'd love to get you guys' opinion on what you think we should do. So I really want a Model 3. I have always driven small cars, which I know is funny for a big guy. But I've always driven small cars. I've had 2 Honda Civics, a Volkswagen. We did have a Buick for a while, but that doesn't really count. So we have a Leaf and a Honda now. We've always been pretty small car people, and I really want a Model 3. So I've got a couple options there, a couple things I'm thinking about. I'd love to get your opinion on. Thinking about just putting in order, reserving a Model 3. So what, I'm going to wait 2 years, and then in 2 years I'll have a Tesla? I don't know. I don't know if that's good enough. I don't know if I'd be happy with that right now. But at the end of the day, I really want that car. I love everything about it. I love the design. I love everything that now we've seen as more and more people have gotten theirs. I will tell you that around us here in Frisco, Texas, I'm seeing them more and more now. They're not everywhere yet, but I'm starting to see them regularly, and I love them. I think they look amazing. I want one. That's it. So, option 1, reserve 1, wait my 2 years. Option 2, we've looked at buying a Model X, and I went and did the test drive. I'd be more than fine doing it. So the question is, do I want to spend the money now on that? We do need a bigger car. We do have a kid. Getting him from point A to point B is going to become much more challenging as he gets a little older. And we do tend to have a lot of people in our car. We tend to hang out with family, tend to have nephews in the car. We go places. So the range and the space would be really nice. So we've talked about getting a Model X. And then the other option that we've talked about, and I'd love to know if anybody knows if this is true or if anyone has done this and had some success with it. But the other thing that I've looked at is buying a used Model S, which I love. I've always been a used car guy, so that's not a big deal. But I've heard that you can buy a used Model S, and then that will push you up the line a little bit for a Model 3. So I've been looking at used Model S's. The problem we have with that is that we live in Texas, so the dealer laws and Tesla's not allowed to sell cars here really. So it's harder to get a used Model S here in Texas. There's ways around it, and obviously we could have anything shipped here, but yeah, that's what we're looking at. And at first we were leaning heavily towards just buying a Model X and being done with it. But now I've gone back and forth on this Model S thing. I've always been a car person. For as much as I've talked even on these videos about wanting a truck, always have had cars. So I'm kind of at this crossroads. I'd love to get your opinion on what you think we should do. But yeah, so should we just reserve a Model 3 and wait? Should we buy a used Model S and use that to hold us over until we wait? Or should we buy a Model X? And I guess probably then still, we'd probably still reserve a Model 3 and wait. So, love to know you guys' opinion. I'd love to know what you have done. But yeah, I think the dream scenario for us right now is Model X for travel and for getting the kid to where he needs to be. The places where we drive, we do take road trips, but the places where we drive, we could totally get to with no issue in a Model X. So that would be great. But I think the dream is have a Model X, have a Model 3, and then, have a Roadster for fun. Wouldn't that be something? So we've been getting ready to go on vacation. We've accumulated quite a lot of Amazon trash. So we keep having to buy little things that we didn't have to go on a big trip. Taking the longest trip we've taken as a family, about 10 days. We are heading to Hawaii, and you can see just the amount of stuff that we have to take for a 3-year-old and partially a work trip, and just a lot of family going, a lot of people we know going. So yeah, huge mess of stuff, big trip, 3-year-old in an airplane for like 10 hours. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. Thank you guys so much for checking this video out. If you're interested in electric cars, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like this video. I can't thank you guys enough for watching. See you down there in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.